The UConn men's basketball team started its season 1-0 with a win against New Haven on Monday. But was it really that pretty? It honestly wasn't. It's a lot to talk about. We'll get to it right now on How About the Huskies. Welcome. It's episode 141 of How About the Huskies. As always, I'm your host, Connor, joined by Matt and Andrew. And as I mentioned in the open, UConn was able to start the season 1-0. I feel like that was almost a given, even though at some points last night it felt a little iffy. Not really, but it was a 10-point game at one point in the second half against a team making its Division One debut. Not exactly what you want out of the number four team in the country, but UConn was able to hold on 79 to 55. They pulled away at the end. I mean, they didn't have their A game. They probably, I hope that wasn't even their B game, but they were still able to get a handy win. What was your guys' thoughts from this one? And maybe just the opening thoughts, because there's a lot we can talk about really with everybody.
Yeah, well, I kind of want to start off by prefacing that there's a difference between overreacting and just stating things that need to be worked on because we've done that in every single game that we've ever done for this show, which is obviously a lot of games. So there's a difference between overreacting and saying the season's over or this team sucks or stuff like that. There's a difference between that and just simply pointing out the things that this team needs to do better because every team needs to do something better. It's the first game of the year. Nobody really is going to win the tournament, win the national championship in their first game of the season. So I kind of want to just preface that. But all in all, I kind of think Connor was right. It wasn't their A or B, but it definitely wasn't a D or F. It's kind of around the C range. Obviously Hurley is going to go and act like it's the worst game that they've ever played, and he was apologizing to people, and they want to burn the film and all this stuff. But I think it's a good learning experience for this team. But it's weird. It's almost like they played way better against Boston College, Michigan State than they did against New Haven, which is just a weird feeling.
And I feel like games like this tend to happen earlier in the season where, I mean, you still have some of these preseason cobwebs on and you aren't as good as you're going to be halfway through Big East play. I mean, we've seen it like this before. I remember a few years ago we had the Mississippi Valley State game. It wasn't the prettiest one. There's just a bunch of games like this where I mean, you start kind of slow and you eventually pull away. I feel like you're kind of experimenting, but I think you kind of ran into a hungrier New Haven team than you might have expected. Like you mentioned, it's their first game in Division One. I think they had a lot of guys coming out wanting to, prove they kind of belong. I think they had a few guys who put together some pretty good showings, and they'll be a pretty competitive team in their conference. So, it was a good game for them, but we did end up winning by 24 points, and there is definitely a lot to build off of.
Yeah, the style New Haven played in this game was something that I don't want to say we weren't prepared for, but it's something that you don't really see too often at the high major level. They took you one-on-one very often. They had only three assists all game. It was just not isolation, but just like one-on-one drive to the baskets. And their big man Andre Pasha, who looked really good. He scored 17 points, a couple of tough hooks over Eric Ryba to fall. It's just he's someone that could play in the perimeter. He hit a three. He was taking some really deep threes. He was taking weird fadeaways, just not your typical big man you'd see at the high major level, someone that was like a bruiser down low. But he wasn't in the paint, so Ryba has to leak off of him, which means it's kind of an open season down in the paint. And our guards were just getting blown by. There were a couple of bad possessions. Silas had some, Solo had some. Everyone really had some bad defensive possessions. That's the real key, I feel like, in this game. The offense, sure, I mean, it wasn't amazing. They shot 8 of 23 from three. But defensively, New Haven was pretty much getting whatever they wanted. Early in that second half, we started making baskets on our first four trips, but they answered as well. No defense or on that to start that half either. It's just a really weird game, as Andrew mentioned, one that hopefully they burn the film, but also you got to learn from it because obviously you're missing a couple of pieces in Reed, Mullins, also Jacob Furphy. But I mean, you still are going to have these guys as key contributors for the whole season. You don't want to just get rid of this tape because they weren't great. Because what if they make the same mistakes in big games like BYU coming up or Arizona? You don't want that. So you want to learn from a game like this. Just happy they were able to pull out the win.
Yeah, and actually the first thing I have written down here is the defense. But Hurley in his post game media highlighted what Connor just did with the three assists, and he said, "You know what that tells you? That you lost a lot of one-on-one battles, almost every one. I mean, I've got a couple of timestamps written down here where Solo Ball just got killed on those screens. Like I've got 18:39 in the first half where he gets caught on a screen. They gave up a mid range and and then to 14:45 he gets screened for a layup, you know. So I feel like the defense as a whole, and everyone, I'm not just picking on Solo Wall. I mean, Eric Ryba struggled. You just talked about New Haven's big man. Eric Ryba struggled with his post defense. Dwayne Caroma looked a little lost on defense as well. So I feel like the defense as a whole looked not as great as we'd hope. But also, I do want to give some credit to New Haven because they kind of played, like Connor said, a weird style of basketball. It's like carefree, like open, easy basketball where they kind of just let it fly, took their one-on-one battles. You know, it wasn't a complex offense or anything. Obviously, they're playing in the NEC, so it's not like in order for them to win, they need to have this complex UConn, Kentucky, Duke style offense. But I do have to give some credit to them because it's not just the fact that we played bad. Their offense, I thought, looked relatively good. I mean, they beat our guys in a lot of one-on-one battles, and their post play was strong. So I do want to give them some credit, not just really get down on our guys.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they only made three threes all game. They didn't make a three until very late in the first half, where we were kind of trading threes after a stretch where neither team could hit anything from distance. But yeah, I mean, they have an interesting style you're not going to really see. I mean, look at our big games coming up. BYU, they have Keita down low. He's not going to be a guy that's playing on the perimeter, a threat to shoot the ball, someone that can take in these hook shots. I mean, Arizona, I wasn't able to catch their game. I know they have some versatile wings, but their true center isn't someone that you're going to see out on the perimeter either. You're going to expect guys like Ryba and hopefully when Reed's back for those games to stay under inside the paint, which would eliminate some of those drives a bit, just having the threat down low. But yeah, I just feel like this is a game where you definitely learn from. And we'll talk about the offense in a moment here, but yeah, just defensively, I mean, it's definitely not what you wanted to see, but based on what we saw, like against Michigan State, what this team could do on defense, it's not like, oh, we're just in the same spot as last year. The team can score, they can't defend. They're gonna have to try to outscore other teams, which didn't work as often last year as it probably could have. Just, I feel like the defense is much better than we saw last night.
You can't forget as well that one of your biggest defensive anchors wasn't there. He wasn't there to play. I was thinking about it. If he had matched up against Pasha, would he have been more physical, kind of pushing him out of the paint? I think Ryba is still learning to kind of play a more physical style, but a kind of pressing style of defense where you just don't really let the guy get inside. Pasha was showing a lot of skill around the rim, a lot of different hook shots, a lot of different fadeaways like we were talking about. But I feel like if Terrace was there, I mean, we would have seen a different result. And I feel like we are kind of crapping on the defense. I feel like we could have been a lot better on offense as well. I just kind of wanted to bring up the fact that they had they forced 11 turnovers from New Haven. Um, so that's 33 possible points you could get off turnovers technically. You only got five. I mean, that I feel like you should at least double or triple that number. I feel like you just have to be kind of better in transition off of a turnover or be able to run a quicker offense sometimes. I feel like maybe they weren't trying as hard to kind of get out in transition. You're playing a inferior opponent here in New Haven, but I feel like as the season goes on, things like this will start to iron themselves out, and I think that they'll be much better kind of within the entire game, defense to offense, having their offense be as consistent as they need it to be, because I feel like right now, early in the season, you're still shaking off these cobwebs, and we'll see improvement as time goes on, I'm sure.
Yeah, you mentioned those 5 points off turnovers, and I can remember them off the top of my head. Jaden Ross had that steal and slam that was an awesome dunk from him, and another steal by Dwayne Caroma that he missed the Euro step, which didn't know he had that in his bag. Then Solo has the putback dunk and one. That adds up to five. I assume those are our fast break points, but or points off turnovers, I should say, not fast break points. But I think they're pretty much the same thing. But point is, yeah, I mean, we didn't really take advantage of turning them over. They also didn't turn it over as often as you'd expect for a team playing its first Division One game against one of the best teams in the country, one of the best perimeter defensive guards in the country, a guy like Silas Deery Jr., who, like I mentioned before, didn't really look like himself on a couple of possessions. But yeah, I mean, I feel like everything we're talking about this game, we just circle back to New Haven impressed more than we maybe thought. We didn't really expect them to win this game. I'm not surprised that they lost, but definitely the future and the rest of the season is bright, I'd say, for the Chargers.
And I feel like we started this off with too much negative. I kind of want to veer off towards the positive, which is Jalen Stewart and Alex Caravan. I think looked fantastic. Alex Caravan looked great, 3 of 4 from three, 6 of 10 from the field, with 19 points and 10 rebounds, which is obviously a double double. And he also had an even split of offensive and defensive rebounds, which I think is really good. He had 5 of each, obviously, and then Jalen Stewart added on 8 rebounds with 11 points. And he also looked really like good taking these aggressive layups to the lane. Like he didn't look scared. He didn't really back down. So I really kind of want to highlight those two. And I feel like nowadays people care way too much. Like, oh, Jalen Stewart didn't drop 20 points in his first game as a starter. We're doomed without Braylon Mullins. He did his job. 11 and 8 is a perfectly fine game for your three, especially the 8 rebounds. Yeah, I kind of just wanted to veer off to the positive side and highlight those two, along with Malachi Smith, who had 6 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists.
Feel like Alex Caravan is someone that is really embracing the role player type role that he came in with as a freshman. And that's not a bad thing at all. It's where he excelled the most, I'd say. That's where he had a lot of success. But if I just didn't have numbers in front of me throughout the whole game, and you were asking me after the game, what were Caravan's stats? I would have probably guessed like, I don't know, 12 points, maybe 5 rebounds, 6 rebounds. He had 19 and 10. I feel like a very quiet 19 and 10. I feel like every game this year so far, including the exhibitions, I've made the same point. A quiet blank for Alex Caravan. He's not someone that is taking a crazy high volume of shots. Sure, he took 10. He only took 4 threes, which is a similar number to what he took in that Michigan State game after just chucking him up against BC. But I just feel like he's someone that we didn't have to rely on to get points. And I hope that doesn't have to be the case when we get to these bigger games because that's somewhere where he struggled last year. He didn't really force much in this game. He had a couple of nice putbacks, one he didn't finish, but I believe he got fouled and hit the free throws. But yeah, I agree. He was big. Jalen Stewart, I mean, no one maybe it'd be nice if he got 20 points, but that's not the expectation. He's not I mean, Braylon Mullins is a good scorer. I don't think his expectation was 20 points for him. Watch it Stewart's in his place be 20 points. But yeah, he looked like someone that wasn't afraid, like you mentioned, driving into the hoop. The three ball wasn't really there, but I mean, you're not again. I mean, that's an area Mullins does excel in that Stewart doesn't. So it'd be nice for him to hit one a game. But solo ball is one name I want to touch upon real quick too. He scored 18 points, 4 of 14 from the field, 3 of 10 from three. Really got a bulk of those points at the foul line on those back-to-back possessions in the second half, where he hit three free throws each. That's probably the biggest tongue twister of the year. 3 free throws each in back-to-back possessions, getting fouled from deep. What do you guys think about Solo? Because I forget the exact number I used, but this is probably close. After the Michigan State game when we did that episode, I was like, if Solo goes blank for blank from three, maybe we should worry. I feel like it was probably worse than 3 for 10, what I said, but I mean, it's still 3 for 10.
Yeah, Solo kind of had one of those weird games where, yeah, 18 points. And Connor just talked about Caravan, who we're going to highlight again in a little bit because there's a second point that wants to be made about him. I feel like Solo's 18 kind of goes quietly too because he was 4 of 14 from the field. And like Connor said, he got a lot of those points at the free throw line. But he also had 3 turnovers on offense. So, it's kind of a weird game. I'd picked him as my player to watch for really this whole season that he's going to turn himself into a first round pick. I still think he can, obviously, but just I feel like he's got a little work to do in terms of he's kind of really eager to shoot the ball because, you look at him, he had the same amount of threes as Alex Caravan did, but also took 6 more shots than him. So I think it's going to be kind of something to watch all season long is his shooting, not just his threes, but his field goal percentage in general.
And we were talking about Caravan before, and you mentioned that role player kind of mentality or a role that he's in, and I like have been saying this. I feel like I mean even back to last episode, I mentioned Alex Caravan and how I mean I feel like we're seeing it with Solo now how the percentages don't always translate in a higher volume, and some guys just aren't like that. Like Alex Caravan, like if he shot 3 or 4 every game, like I'd be so much happier with that than if he were shooting 7 or 8 threes and shooting 28% for the season. Because that's just not who he is. He's not a guy who's gonna go out and impose his will on a defense and score 40 points. That's not who he is. Alex Caravan is much more of a let the game come to him type player, and I feel like that's why I'm so high on him this season is because he can really just let the game come to him and he doesn't have to worry about it. I feel like Solo is trying to take over that role of imposing his will and becoming this offensive superstar. But I mean, we're seeing it this season too. I mean, he's not necessarily becoming this scorer at will and this amazing first round prospect right now. I still think he can, but he it's a different role, and these guys are kind of thrusted into different roles. Caravan was last season, and he I don't think he'd necessarily fit in it. He was much better when he was kind of within the system, within had Newton and Klingon and getting everybody their buckets and just moving the ball around, opposed to him coming up and chucking up, like I said, 7, 8 threes, making three of them and calling it a night. It's just not who he is. And I think we just kind of this season have a much better chance at becoming one of those teams again. Especially once you get Mullins and Reed back, you're going to become a much more fluid offense. I just think that, there's a long way to go with this team, and I think that they're gonna pick each other up, and we're gonna see, like I said, Mullins come back and Reed come back, and it's gonna be much more fluid, much more um, put together offense than the one that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, UConn basketball without Reed and Mullins is not a top five team. I feel like if they're expected to be that, then if those two come back, they're the best team. Which, I mean, maybe they are, they will be as we see what goes on later in this month and into the rest of non-conference play. But I mean, I'm fine with this performance offensively, let's say points wise. I mean, Solo went 3 for 10. On paper, that's like, oh, he went 3 for 10. That's not a great number. He hits one more, he's 4 for 10. That's 40%. That's kind of what you're shooting for as a three-point shooter. Obviously, he was better than 40% last year, so we even expect more out of him. But he's someone that I feel like he didn't take as many bad threes in this one. There was in the first game, BC game, a bunch of his misses were bad threes, like shots. Why are you taking that? Michigan State, they were a little bit better of takes in this game, better as well. They'll fall eventually for him. I'm not too worried. I mean, I can't really remember where Jordan Hawkins was mocked after the first game of his sophomore season, but he ended up in the first round in the lottery. I feel like Solo can take a similar path. It's a much deeper draft this year with a bunch of superstar freshmen. They're all like the same archetype that we were talking about before we hopped on. So it might be tougher to crack that lottery first round, but Solo's someone I feel like that he could. I mean, I expect this a performance like this every night from him. Better shooting even. So that was 18. I feel like he could average right around that for the season, but who else haven't we really touched upon yet? Looking at this box score here. Talk about Silas on the offensive end a bit. He scored 10 points, the fourth Husky to finish in double figures, along with Ball, Caravan, and Stewart. 4 of 6 from the field. Had some nice drives that we really missed in that Michigan State game. He didn't do any of that. So good to see him do that. He didn't hit a three in this one after a couple in that exhibition. I mean, he was fine. I mean, I feel like we're almost placing unfair expectations on him, and it's me. I'll take the blame. I've seen it a lot of places too, but I'm certainly riding this train that he's basically this team's Tristan Newton. We need him to be this team's Silas, and I feel like he's going to grow into a role. It was his first game. I mean, it was his first game of the season. It was opening night, second time playing with these guys against other opponents. I think he'll be fine, but this is probably a similar production experience that we'll see to Silas all year. He's not coming in expected to average 15, 16 points per game.
No, and I feel like he kind of had a weird game too because he had a fine game offensively. A couple of his takes were the when the small ball lineup was out, and I feel like that did not work all too well, especially on defense. I think that it's definitely got the capability of hurting teams offensively, but defensively it was just bad. Like I've got written down, Silas, he had a great take to the lane. There's nobody in the paint. Everyone was like on the perimeter and inside the 3 point line. There's three New Haven defenders in the paint, and he still got through and made the layup. So I feel like that has a lot to say about him and his toughness getting to the rack. But he also had 4 fouls in 20 minutes, which is just a half. So he definitely has to watch that. But I feel like in general, he's just not afraid to take the ball in the lane, draw a foul if he has to. So I liked what I saw out of him on offense, honestly. I think that he's definitely also got a lot of room to get better, but I think he's going to be a really important piece. And I agree, the comparisons have to stop. He's got to be this team's Silas. He's not the next this or a carbon copy of this. He's Silas Demery Jr. That's who he is, and that's how he's going to help his team.
We also need to remember this is his first bit of action with this squad as well. Just kind of, fitting into this offense. It's not easy. It's not something you're just going to come over and do right away, especially kind of coming back from an injury. And and missing a little bit of that preseason and just kind of hopping in now and having to figure it out. I almost wanted to see him be a little bit more aggressive on offense. We did mention him getting to the rim. He shot pretty well, 4-6, but he only took 1 3. I mean, honestly, if he took three threes, even if he didn't make any of them, just kind of keeping that defense honest and kind of opening things up for other guys would have been helpful. But we do kind of just need to wait on him. I mean, even when Newton came over, he was not this mega star right away. He was not this NBA level guy right away. And I think we just need to be as patient with Silas here as we were with Newton and as we were with all the other guys that came over. We need to just kind of, let them grow into the season and let them grow into a team. It's very rare your team doesn't have growing pains. That one season 2 years ago where we won 37 games, that might never happen again. So I think we just kind of need to be more realistic and set expectations and understand that the teams aren't perfect. Even that team that won it 3 years ago had its slumps and had its hard times, and we ran through March. So just allow these guys to grow and allow them to kind of to gel together, and I'm sure it will come together. We got one of the best coaches in the world.
Yeah, and I promise this will be the end of the Newton comparison to Silas for me for this episode. But I remember, I mean, Newton, he was okay at the beginning. He really broke out in one of those games, and that was the PK Invitational, I'm pretty sure, his first year. I could be mixing up my years, but he had a big game against Oregon where he scored 20 points. It also could have been not Oregon. I don't remember the opponent, but he scored like 20 points. We hit a bunch of threes. I think a program record at the time for threes in that game. He really exploded, and then he was on and off the rest of the year, but Hurley said in his post game that Tristan Newton didn't have a phenomenal start his junior year, his first year, and now he's on the wall. So obviously it's very early in Silas's career, and we're talking like he struggled. I mean, he hit 4 of 6 shots, he scored 10 points. The defense wasn't where you thought it'd be, but that's something that can be fixed. We know he can guard from what he's done in the past with his accolades. It's just I feel like he's someone that's going to be a huge X factor for this team because last year, the point guard play, I mean, DR was awesome. We loved DR, but he was a bit undersized. He was hurt for the important part of the season at the end. Silas, him being healthy, him being a facilitator, which he only had the 2 assists, which, I mean, we're not expecting him to be one of the top point guards in the country in that regards, averaging 7 or 8 assists per game. But it'd be nice to see him maybe get a little more involved in that department. Malachi Smith had 4 off the bench, maybe to make up for that. But yeah, point is, Silas is someone that's going to be huge for this team, and I'm really curious to see how he performs in his second game on Friday against UMass Lowell.
I remember there were games Newton's first season when he had 0 points, and I remember that was like a talking point for like a couple weeks. He had like 2 or 3 games where he had like 0 points, and everybody was like, "Oh, what's going on with this? Like, is he a point guard? Is he gonna be able to do this?" It's all we don't even think about that even the smallest bit anymore. Like it's so far in the past. You just have to like let the season go on, and I'm sure great things will happen.
Yeah, and one last point. I said I was done, but it's about Silas. I mean, looking at the championship teams, Newton and Jackson were both elite facilitators. And the next year, Newton, of course, improved in that department. Castle, he was okay. I mean, he's a much better facilitator, I'd say, in the NBA now than he was with UConn. That's just his role at UConn wasn't really to do that. And Cam Spencer was a really underrated guy. This team, I mean, there's Silas, there's Malachi. I feel like there's so many avenues you can go in that department. Caravan's decent enough. What did he do in this game? Only had 2 assists. We've seen him have games where he's had 4 or 5 assists. This is going to be a not a point guard by committee, but like an assist by committee. Like we only had 11 assists in this game. That's far below the early UConn standard. I expect this team to, I mean, 27 baskets, almost have 20 assists. A lot of one-on-one ball putbacks in this game, but. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're kind of beating this point guard assist stuff to death. Who else haven't we really touched on? Let's talk about the bigs real quick before we wrap up this game.
I
Eric
was gonna say,
Ryba.
yeah.
Yeah, Ryba. I mean, I mean, you're saying this for everyone. He had a weird game. He hit every shot he took. He went 3 for 3 from the field. He played 18 minutes, which is fewer minutes than Dwayne Caroma, which is probably not what anyone really expected coming into the game. I just want to hear what you guys think, what went down with the bigs and where we're looking going forward.
Yeah, I was mentioning to Connor before we started to record that it feels like in this player or in this game, every player had a positive and a negative. Like solo ball, 18 points, but three turnovers. Malachi Smith, 6, 4, and 4, but three turnovers. This one, it was Eric Ryba, 3 of 3 from the field. He didn't miss a shot, but he also had 6 points and a sole rebound in 18 minutes, which is not necessarily what you want to see. That's like what he would probably do off the bench coming in for Terrace Reed. But I'm not going to say Dwayne Caroma outplayed him because that's not true. I think Caroma did well for his first game as a Husky as well. But I think this team is definitely missing Terrace Reed, and it's not that Rob was a bad player. He's just inexperienced. High school ball is just so much different from the highest level, which is Division I college basketball. We've seen every player that we have ever had. No player has walked into this program and become as good as they ended up being after the first game. Every player, I remember UConn fans saying Castle stunk. Look where he is now. They said the same thing about Tristan Newton after St. John's games and Jordan Hawkins is freshman. Every single player that has played for every single program has been told that they suck because they've had a bad game. So I'm not worried about Eric at all. I definitely think that he's going to do better off the bench this season, assuming that Terrace is in the starting lineup on Friday against UMass Lowell. But his post defense, I feel like, was the killer. I know we mentioned it earlier. I'm not really going to pay attention to his offense because I feel like if he wanted to, he could have just went for 15, 20 and just posted up every single time. But that's not really how this team runs their offense. The main thing I'm worried about is the post defense. He kind of just looked second late to everything, which led to him getting beat a lot on the post.
Part of me saw a lot. I saw a lot of. I paid a lot of attention to Ryba um, throughout what I saw, and I just noticed that they kind of, to me at least, looked like they were like game planning Ryba, like kind of like we're not gonna let this guy beat us, sort of thing. I remember he he got a pass or got a board right in the middle, right under the basket, and then there were three guys that all just collapsed right onto him, and he just went right up with it and dunked it. Like you said, I feel like he could have gone for like 15 or 20 and just taken over, but I just don't like it just seemed like they were kind of under the impression like they didn't have many giants. We're not gonna let this 7-2 guy beat us. And I think that kind of for what that game plan was and what they were trying to do on defense. I feel like, he did fine. He had 6 points aboard. He had a pretty huge block, but um, you got to remember too, freshman, first time here playing collegiate basketball, so we do just kind of have to let him grow, and I think that he will. I think this whole team will grow.
Yeah, I mean, he still hasn't really shown much threat from the perimeter, which is, as I mentioned last episode, I think that'll come once he's not the main center relied upon in the offense. But I'm curious, and I want to hear what you guys think about this too. What's it gonna look like? Because Dwayne Caroma, he played 22 minutes in this game, which was the most among the big men. He played 22. Raba played 18. He scored 4 points, had three steals. I mean, is this a guy that's just not gonna play come when Terrace Reed is healthy? I mean, it's a tough spot. I feel like the answer is probably yes, but he's proven a decent amount. I want to hear what you guys have to think about that because it's not a position we really thought we'd be in or a problem we thought we'd have coming into the year.
This is kind of like a Joey Calcaterra situation where there will probably be times where Terrace Reed gets into foul trouble, and so does. I mean, last year we were no stranger to our bigs getting in foul trouble. I mean, we had to resort to our good friend Yusuf Singare in games, and we're like, I hate to be this guy, but there's gonna be injuries again. There's gonna be games missed by big, so I don't think he's gonna quite not play. It probably won't be as much as 22 minutes, obviously, but I feel like he's going to be a Joey Calcaterra type where when he is in, he contributes as much as he possibly can, but when he's out, he's just not going to play, unfortunately, maybe until the last couple minutes. And we've had those type of players every year, and it's not because of how good they are. It's just, the rotation's not going to stay the same the whole year. Guys are going to stay in, guys are going to fall out. That's just the nature of college basketball. It kind of goes from 11 to 10 to 9 to 8 as we get to March. So I feel like he's going to be a good piece off the bench and kind of a surprise piece for teams especially if they get our bigs in foul trouble.
Yeah, you mentioned Yusuf. I just looked. I forgot. He's on High Point now. I know they had a big win yesterday. I just checked. He played 5 minutes at zeros across the board, except for a four in the foul department. So clearly, he learned from Samson well in that regard. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I feel like he's a guy that we're going to be in foul trouble with the bigs, and based on how we've played, I mean, this game's a little better in the foul department. Silas had four. He was the only one with that many. We had three with Caravan, three Karoma, three with Jaden Ross. But I mean, we're nowhere near like Kuroma fouling out with six with like 10 minutes to go in that Michigan State game. But yeah, we're gonna be in a spot where we're gonna need a spot center. And last year it was Singari on occasion, but most of the time we just go small ball with Caravan at the five. I feel like we're not gonna see that as often this year because we have this weapon that we can just throw in there, and he's someone that can make an impact. Like he had three steals. It's not just a guy that's in there to grab a rebound, be tough. He's good on the defensive end. I mean, he's someone that. I mean, if you were to tell me or ask me who led the team in steals coming in, I would not guess him. I guess, oh, Silas is going to pick off that perimeter all day or something. But no, he is decent on the defensive end but outside of the fouling. It's silly fouls, I feel like, too. Just some touch fouls, some Samson-esque fouls, if you will. But yeah, it's just someone, it's an interesting thought because it's going to become real once Terrace is back. And I think, I don't want to assume anything, but he'll definitely play in one of the next two. If he doesn't play Friday, I'd be shocked if he misses a full week from what it looked like he was yesterday. He'll definitely be suiting up on Monday.
I feel like he would be the big in the so-called small ball lineup. I really don't think we'd ever see Alex Caravan at the five. I feel like a small ball lineup would legitimately just be a Demery Ball, Stewart or Ross, Caravan and Karoma type of lineup, or even with Caravan out. But I feel like he would be the big in the so-called small ball lineup. I don't think we'll ever see Caravan at the five, though. I can't see that ever happening.
Yeah, I'm pulling up some what our guys did that transferred out. I mean, Isaiah Abraham, if you didn't know, Georgetown starter. Isaiah Abraham scored 9 points in their opener. Darius Adams is technically a Husky in heart. He scored 16 points starting for Maryland, which is interesting. Who else is there? I'm doing this live here. VCU is an interesting one I want to find. Where's
I
VC?
did just check out Ahmad Noel because I was just curious about the same thing. He played 18 minutes. He had like 5-2 or 5-3, but um, I don't know. I'm just kind of.
Yeah, I mean
Check out University of California, Santa
oh,
Barbara,
that's right. Did they
Santa
start yet?
Monica, something.
UCSB Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara, yeah.
I don't know if they played yet. Maybe they play tonight. We're doing this is great content. This is the important stuff. UC Santa Barbara plays tonight at 9 p.m. on ESPN Plus. That's where I'll be. That's where y'all should be. But this is out by the time that happens, so we'll know how Eden does. He's someone I think he's gonna kill it at that level. We saw him kill it at that level with St. Mary's, but we're getting a bit sidetracked here. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple of guys because there's so much movement in the portal. But any last thoughts on this New Haven game? I don't either. We're not going to preview UMass Lowell because I don't know anything about them. I know they're usually a decent-ish program in the America East, but we'll just do players to watch and then call it an episode. So you guys got a player to watch after watching what we saw against New Haven the other night?
I'm gonna go with Jalen Stewart. I would love to see him continue the form. You know, if he can get another 10-6 performance, kind of like we saw last game, or maybe even better, maybe he could get a double double. I mean, that would be awesome. I'd love Stu, and I'd love to see him kind of blossom into a very reliable player for us. One that we haven't necessarily seen yet, but have kind of expected. I kind of want to see that. So. My player to watch is Jalen Stewart because I just want to see the improved form.
I should have gone first. No, I was between a couple of guys, but Matt made it easier. I'm gonna go with Silas Demery Jr. because I feel like he, of all the players in the starting lineup, I guess had the weirdest game per se, and I think he's gonna do really well against UMass Lowell. I don't know a lot about them either. I do know they did beat Quinnipiac last season, which I guess is a good win in the grand scheme of things. But they're always pretty decent in the America East. I remember they were projected as a 15 in the tournament up until about January, but they always run into the University of Vermont, which is probably the best program in the American East. But I think that game's definitely going to be better than this one. I feel like they have 3 whole days to work out the issues from this game. But yeah, I'm going to go with Silas to have a really good game against the Riverhawks.
It's the rare time going third in player to watch where your guy wasn't taken. I'm gonna go solo. I just want to see improved percentages across the board shooting. I mean, 4 for 14, not great. 3 for 10. I just want him to improve from 30%. I'm not saying go 4 for 10. I don't know quick math in my head. 3 for 8, that's higher than that. Maybe if it's taking less, if you're still hitting three. But I just want Solo to improve percentage wise and also defensively because he's someone that was caught up in all those guards getting blown by as all of our guards were. I don't even want to single them out because it was all of them. I know, Andrew, you had the timestamps earlier. You had the receipts on Solo, but that was funny. But yeah, I'm going Solo for my player to watch. And with that, that'll do it here for episode 141. How about the Huskies? We'll probably go again between the games, but maybe not because it's a Friday, Monday turnaround. We'll see. And if we go, we go. If not, we'll definitely talk after because the next game after that, AJ DeBansa and BYU. A big week coming up. But thank you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next one.